I'm joined with Ami Horowitz. Ami, the wins keep on coming for the Trump administration. With Russia releasing a US hostage, the White House secured the release of Pennsylvania teacher Marc Fogel, who had been wrongfully detained for almost 4 years in Russia after being arrested with legally prescribed marijuana. Let's hear from Marc Fogel.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now. I want you to know that I am not a hero in this at all. And President Trump is a hero. These men that came from the diplomatic service are heroes.
And earlier today, we heard that negotiations to end the war in Ukraine are set to begin after President Trump had what he called a lengthy and highly productive conversation with Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian President Zelensky has welcomed the push for peace. Now, Ami, what is the timeline for these negotiations? We know Donald Trump said that he could secure peace in record time. And is that achievable after 3 years of war?
Yeah, first of all, it was great to see another American hostage released from the clutches of Putin and Russia. I think that they moved in far more and with alacrity to get him there, as opposed to Biden, which took him years actually to call Marc Fogel wrongfully detained, whereas he moved very quickly to get Briner out and traded for the merchant of death, Victor Bout. As in regards to Ukraine, Europe, and the United States, I think what you're seeing here is absolutely fascinating. First of all, it looks like we are going to be moving very, very quickly towards a deal. And you're seeing the Europeans actually fall in line with their rhetoric to align with Trump. You're going to see a lot of that with the Munich Security Conference happening. You're going to see a lot of their rhetoric, in fact, start to mirror and echo what Trump is saying. And what he's basically saying is, guys, we have to have a deal here. This can't go on forever. Russia, you're not going to take Kiev. And Ukraine, you're not going to take back Donbass and Crimea. That's the deal. And that's the deal that's going to be made, I think. And I think hopefully also thrown, I think it's important for us not to include Ukraine in NATO. I've been against that from the beginning. I'm still against it now, and I think so is Trump. And I think the sad part of this is that we all knew this is where it was going years ago. Yet it's still Ukraine had to, to expend blood and treasure to essentially be at the same place where it would have been 3 years ago. I think also what has been talked about, and I think is great, is Trump is saying, look, we have been funding Ukraine for years, rightly so. At the same time, hey, Europe, you have to pay more money, right? You are in their crosshairs. You are on the same continent as Russia. You have a responsibility. And in fact, he's gotten to do that. Moreover, I'm also glad to see they're telling Ukraine, this is not cost-free. Like, we are funding you guys, but essentially we want to be paid back. I think the idea of us making a deal for the important mineral resources and to buy them from Ukraine, I think is great. I think it's important. I think this can't be cost-free. And I think ultimately that's what a deal's going to look like. And, I don't know if he's going to win the Nobel Peace Prize for this. He didn't last term when he should have, when he brokered the Abraham Accords, which was like low-key one of the greatest foreign policy accomplishments in the last 50 years. Didn't win it for that. Let's see if they pass him over now for your Ukraine deal.
Well, he's also got the deadline for Hamas to release all the hostages. That's fast approaching, Ami. President Trump said he wants them all released by midday Saturday, or all hell will break loose. What's the latest on that? And are we days away from the ceasefire ending?
Look, time will tell. Israel was pretty confident that the ceasefire was actually going to hold. I'm having my doubts, and so are many Israelis. Look, I think Hamas has made the decision, and they said, they gave up the hostages quickly, the first tranche of them, because they were relatively healthy looking. The hostages were held in different places, were treated differently. I think this next tranche of hostages, I think one will see that they were tortured and scarred and starved. And I think it's not a good look for Hamas when you have Jews looking like they're Holocaust survivors. I'm sorry to say that, but that's what we're facing. And Hamas doesn't want to have that blowback. I think it's important to note the difference between the rhetoric of the Trump administration versus what the rhetoric of the Biden administration has been in the past. Trump is telling Israel, you do what you got to do. You have free reign. This is your decision to make. No doubt that if Biden was president, he would force Israel to keep the terms of the ceasefire, even though Hamas has violated. We know this because he's done it in the past. He cajoled and he pushed and he threatened and he embargoed Israel for defending herself. So I think that Israel finds itself in an enviable position where it can make its own foreign policy decisions and decide how it wants to treat its neighbor in a time of war. I think Israel is benefiting from that for sure.
And we saw the Jordanian king at the White House earlier this week. It's clear that President Trump wants those countries to do more. Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon, perhaps. He wants them to pull their weight and not have the West carrying the weight of this crisis. How do you see that progressing? Do you see those countries taking in Palestinian refugees, resettling them, or are they going to continue to refuse to do that?
No, I don't see them taking them in. Look, I think they know what they got themselves into when they took in Palestinian refugees the first time around. Palestinians are particularly radical. They have radicalized the population of the country that they've entered. They've caused tremendous amount of issues and problems and angst for those countries. So I don't think they're looking to take in more radical Hamas Palestinians into their country. Look, I think Trump has a certain amount of leverage with them, but I think they're going to hold true to that. I think he has more leverage to say to the Arab world, look, you guys have to finance a reconstruction of Gaza. That shouldn't be on the shoulders of the United States and Europe. That really, this is your region, your area. You need to shoulder that load. But I think ultimately, look, I think the Palestinians are going to remember this war, this campaign for generations. I think they hopefully have come to the realization that when you spill Jewish blood, there are real prices and consequences for those actions. And hopefully we'll have a better and more stable Middle East because of it.
I fear that lesson is not going to be learned, but I think the normalisation of relationships in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and Israel, for example, if that comes in the next few months or even in Trump's second term, that will have an enormous difference because it just shifts the entire understanding of how that region works. For so long, we were told that until the Palestinians have statehood, you can never have relationships normalised in that region. And Trump with the Abraham Accords showed that that was a fallacy. So it's going to be fascinating to observe. Just before you go, I want to ask you about the World Health Organization. Donald Trump's withdrawn from it. Argentina is set to follow. And the WHO chief is now panicking, is pleading with other countries to help get the US to reconsider. How do you see this resolving? Are we going to see the World Health Organization reformed or just more countries leaving?
Yeah, I'm sorry, World Health Organization. Maybe you shouldn't have partnered with China in hiding the coronavirus. Maybe you would have a little more credibility on the world stage, and particularly the United States. Are they going to reform themselves? That's not the DNA of the United Nations and its organizations. Reform is not what they do. Look, Argentina, love it. Milei, my spirit animal, following the Trump's lead. I'm all down for it. I hope more countries will follow suit. There has to be a price to pay for these organizations. They can't simply continue doing the same actions that are harming the United States, harming the world, and continue to say, we're going to get more money from you. It doesn't work that way. We have to use the leverage we do. The leverage we have is economic. I'm glad we're doing it. Hopefully it'll make a change.